here for now, and we'll go from there. Well, I'll do an intro and then we'll dive in. All right. Well, good morning, federal employees. Thank you for being with us today. Today's a fantastic episode, unique one. We are blessed to have a visitor, Raj Vavilala from GEHA, one of the largest FEHB plan providers and dental plan providers for federal employees. They do some incredible work. They have great plans for federal employees. Today, we're going to talk through, with Raj's help, some of the biggest factors that all federal employees, federal retirees need to be thinking about this open season. There's been a lot of changes. And if you've never changed your FEHB plan or it's been a while, now's the time to really know what's been happening and what factors you should be considering this open season. So Raj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dallin. It's so great to be with you, and you're very kind. It's an honor to talk to your audience. It's a privilege to be with you here today.
Perfect. Great. Well, Raj, what I'm thinking to get us started here in this conversation, let's talk about some of the big changes coming up this open season. Now, of course, the Postal Service is revamping their entire plan. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, as well as some other big changes happening this open season. Talk me through what big changes you're seeing that people should keep an eye out this open season.
Yeah, it's a great start there. One, as you noted, the FEHB and the PSHB programs are split out right now. They're still governed similarly, and the plans are going to be the same.
Mhm.
However, part of just this change at this time, there have been advancements to the product portfolios overall, whether it's introduction of fertility benefits, whether it's the introduction of pharmacy benefits, whether it's, in our case, the continued expansion of Medicare benefits. All of those are coming along with these programs right now. So for a typical consumer, for several years, there hasn't been a large amount of disruption. There's been a steady state. Here's their annual benefit change process, and here's the new things that are added incrementally. This is the first time that you get to see transformational change, because now each of these audiences are treated as their own. And
Mhm.
that may mean excellent things for many members, but you should confirm that there are excellent things for you as you go through the process.
Agreed, 100%. 100%. Whenever there's large changes, it's definitely a great time to look up, okay, I've had this plan for a long time. What big things are changing? Because you don't want to get caught sticking in a plan that just doesn't make sense for you anymore. Now, when it comes to, let's say, Medicare Advantage plans, over the last couple of years, this has kind of been introduced within the framework of FEHB. Talk me through, with those introductions, what should people approaching Medicare or retiring, what should they be thinking about when it comes to these FEHB specific Medicare Advantage plans?
Yeah, great question. FEHB and PSHB, the OPM does a really good job for those programs to make sure that benefits are included part of their call letters and the things they require. So we already have a strong set of benefits. However, as you noted, as people age, we all, father time catches up with all of us, our needs change.
Mhm.
And now insurance and the benefits you offer are no longer just a group of benefits that meet everybody's needs. There are small niches that come out of it. Somebody might need transportation services. Somebody might need extra pharmacy benefits. Somebody might just need better preventive care because they've been well, but now that they're older, the normal aches and pains start to creep up a little bit more, and that could, if uncontrolled, get into a chronic issue. So these audiences need to be more focused right now when they're approaching their 65 and beyond. And
Mhm.
that's just from a healthcare point of view. But the other part, which you do a great job on this already, the financial impacts of this. The things you need to do, it could be as simple as signing up for Part B. That could have ripple effects for somebody if just in case they miss that deadline, the penalties and things like that that come in. It
Mhm.
could have a ripple effect for them. So even though they might feel healthy right now, and they understand the next, say, 6 months of their life, and they can be a good judge of, I'll be okay for the next till the next open enrollment. And when next open season comes in, I will take a look at my plans. However, you might want to actually sign up at 65 for Part B, because if you don't, now you get a penalty 1 year, even though you didn't need it. So that education, that nuance of not just your healthcare needs are evolving, also your financing of those healthcare needs that you might have, almost in a preventive way to say, okay, I may not need this now, but if I need it 3 years down the line, how do I plan for funding that account for 3 years and not using it? And the benefit of that 3 years down the line versus not funding it. And now you have penalties and needs at the end of 3 years. Like, how do you do that? Calculus is really complicated for anyone. And you want to rely on people, whoever they are, who've gone through that journey. And it could be, most of us have friends and family members who've gone through it. And I have rarely encountered a friend or a family member who's been older than me who has said, I've been through this and it was great because I planned for it. Almost everyone says, I wish I knew. And that's the part of being an experiential learner, which most of us are, is we learn through experience. Mm-hmm. And so how do you, not get into those pitfalls and not step on those little Lego stones flying around? Like, how do you actually learn from the, call it the oversight of someone else? And that's where carriers, that's where care providers, that's where advocates come in, wherein they help us understand as members, you may not know this, but if you don't sign up for this now, here's the impact of the penalty, and a 10% each year and a 10% the next year. It adds up, especially if somebody then gets into a fixed income scale, wherein now not only the costs pile up, not only do the penalties pile up, but your disposable income is fixed or lower. And somebody to help them when they are 64 is more important than when they're 67.
Right, 100%. And I think that's the big focus that I just always try to focus on is, hey, proper planning prevents a lot of pain down the road. Now, like you said, cost, of course, is a huge concern for people moving forward. And certainly we see moving into 2025, premiums across the board are going up, costs are going up. Can you talk to maybe why that is? People are wondering, why are costs going up? Why are my premiums dumping up? Talk to why that is and maybe what things people can do to help mitigate that for themselves.
It's the right question for everybody to ask. Every consumer, every member needs to ask this question. And I appreciate you being the champion for asking this question. So the first part is my perspective on, as we came out of COVID, that was pretty traumatic for us as a country and a population. However, along the way, it did a few things. Some are obvious in terms of it disrupted healthcare and people didn't get the care. And then things piled up and they needed more intense care than they would have needed if they were, things were open at that time. So that's one factor that everybody generally understands coming out of COVID to say, okay, costs have gone up, utilization has gone up. The other factor, which is my theory and research is coming out on this, our lifestyles have changed over those last 3-4 years. So many of us are now working from home. So many of us have now gotten a new lifestyle of travel and the things we get into. And so that is leading to different types of issues, different types of challenges. And I can speak from personal experience. I've been working from home for the last four years or so, and I have to take an extra care to keep up with my fitness routine. It's no longer obvious coming back from the office and you go to the gym or you buy something. You're home and it might look like, oh, you can be healthier because you're home. But I think people are working longer. People are working harder. So it's taking away from the personal care that might have come in place when you were out on the street. You're just walking. You're walking 3, 4, 5,000 steps a day when you're outside going to an office. Are you really walking 3, 4, 5,000 steps a day when you're working from home? Probably not. So those costs are coming up. Those care items are coming up right now. People are facing those issues. And costs are generally a combination of two things. There is a unit cost and there's a utilization. Now, unit cost, we can all do a great job of it. And that's many ways wherein we negotiate contracts, we constantly evaluate the therapies that are available. How do we deliver better products and better drugs to members at a cheaper price? That part happens. I think this utilization also becomes a challenge now, wherein people are now needing more care. And that's really the global reason why costs are going up. Because once you start introducing GLP-1, it's a great example. It is a cost. It helps us. And the hope is several years down the line, it allows for people to have better lives, thus lower costs several years down the line. But the immediate is you do have costs right now, and you do need to deal with it. So that's generally one of the many reasons that's occurring that's causing us to have increased costs. The second part of your question, which is the so what of all of this, is members, consumers, what they need to do now is not just take the price in and say, okay, I guess this is happening. Let me just go ahead and pay the price in. Because A, none of us have money lying around that we can just like throw into something. And B, none of us should just assume that is the right thing and let's just pay for it. Let's actually evaluate it. Let's actually reach out to sources and understand why the cost is the cost and what am I getting out of it. And this is where evaluating your plan becomes really important. So you may have a plan that's very rich in benefits that you're not using. And so you take a look at that and say, do you have to keep the same plan, or can you step down because you don't need those services? You don't need that care. So I don't need that. So let me step down. A good example could be a plan that has enhanced fertility benefits if you're in it. And you look at yourself and say, I'm not at an age wherein I'm going to have children. It's not part of my future. I don't need those benefits. What I need is rich healthcare that takes care of how I'm aging and how I'm aging well. Let me shift to that plan. On the other way around, somebody who jumps in, comes and says, I want a rich plan because I was going through a certain condition and I want to be taken care of. They may do the same action. Let me step down. On the other hand, people are looking at a plan that they might be paying out of pocket separately for their healthcare not covered by insurance. They may look at this and say, I actually want to go up because now I see a plan that's covering for things that I really need, that I've been paying on my own. Weight management is a great example wherein if somebody is spending money on certain therapies that are outside of insurance, whatever they might be, it could be chiropractor, it could be massage therapy, it could be nutrition services, it could be signing up for exercise services. They may look at that and say, I may not need to sign up at a level 10 on that service anymore because I have these medications and these therapies. I might drop that to fund this. So these are choices that people can make once they look at the plan. So the takeaway out of all of this is take a look at your plan right now to see, A, is it serving your needs? And if it is serving your needs and it's perfect and you're using the services, most people, when they're using the services, they will look at the plan and say, it's fair. I have been using the services. It's giving me what I need. I don't like it that the prices are going up X%, but I understand. But a lot of people are also there. They look at that and say, I don't use it. I don't need it. Or I use it. It wasn't enough. So I had to supplement it. But now I don't need to supplement it because I've got a better plan and let me step up. So all of those choices are on the table.
Right. And one thing, of course, that makes the federal government so great is every year this open season, whether working or retired, I know a lot of feds get nervous to make any changes. They're like, oh man, what's going to happen? I've had this plan for years. And I always like to remind people, hey, look, give it a go, right? If you think a change is necessary, give it a go. Worst case, next year, you can always change back to what you're doing. But at least you got a shot for improving your situation, saving some money, getting a plan that better aligns with your goals. So that's fantastic. I love that. Now, any final words, Raj, as people progress into open season, just starting here in just a few weeks, any final thoughts, tips that you would give a friend, all the feds listening as they progress into open season? Any final tips for them?
It's a great question. One, listen to people like you who are real advocates. I think I would encourage everybody who's following you to recommend you and get the information out, because we do the same. But really, like, be the advocates that you are for your friends and family, because you've got an advocate in Haas. So do that. So let's do that. Two, always talk to an existing user. Always talk to. So when you have an experience of X with a company, talk to people who are with the same plan to see if they have the same experience, because that will give you reinforcement whether what you're feeling is normal, or is it something abnormal that you need to understand. And two, if you're thinking about switching, obviously look at the literature, research, do all of that, but talk to people in their plan and say, how do they treat you when you're a customer? It's like those cell phone things, the new member price and the existing member price, they could be different. So talk to an existing member to say, I'm thinking about switching to GEHA. Give me your experience. Tell me the good, tell me the not so good. I want all of it. And then you can compare to your good and your not so good to say, is it worth it? and take your time. I think there is we do have approximately a month to make this selection. So you don't need to jump in right away because you don't have a lot of time once these brochures come out to evaluate it.
Right.
So you don't need to sign up right away and jump into it. Ask the questions. And finally, even after you sign up, once you sign up for it, you don't have to then sit down and say, well, I guess I made a selection and I'm good with it. You take your time, put the selection in, but don't submit yet. Just evaluate it, think about it. And then as new information comes about, you may want to change it. Obviously, do it before your deadline's over. Don't miss the deadline. Definitely enroll, but take your time, do your research, ask your sources, and good luck to everybody as they go through it. But the number one thing I still say is follow your advocates because they're doing the work. You do more work on this than any consumer can, just because that's the nature of how things work. They cannot do all the research. So rely on you, rely on the carriers. They know a lot about what's happening in the plan. Ask the question, why did my price go up X%? And if you don't find the answer to be satisfactory, then you might want to think about a competitor plan to say, do you find their answer to be satisfactory? Ultimately, I do the best thing that you can at that time. But as you noted, there's always next year.
Right. Right. Well said. Well said. And my final parting words to everyone listening, again, talk to someone in the plan. That's fantastic advice that Raj mentioned. Do your research, do the best you can, find a plan that works for you. And of course, always, we always adjust down the road. Every plan changes over time and every life and your needs will change over time. So finding plans that match whatever lifestyle you're in will work over time. But for everyone listening, I hope that's been helpful as you progress into open season. We definitely appreciate Raj for being here and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Darren. Great to be here.